This exercise right here is probably the greatest exercise when it comes to addressing the anterior pelvic tilt. This is my experience. I'm somebody that suffered with anterior pelvic tilt for a very long time. I remember as a kid sleeping on my belly, waking up in the morning with severe kind of lower back pain because of this massive hyperlordosis in my lower back. I remember my mom and dad telling me sleep on your back because, when you sleep, your belly just completely kind of comes out and you're stressing the lower back. And then I started playing basketball, soccer, and all those sports. And, that kind of facilitated that posture, that whole kinetic chain, domino effect of anterior pelvic tilt. I was a really good sprinter as a kid. Got into senior basketball. I was still very quick on my feet. And so hip flexors were always kind of the strong part of me. And so those hip flexors were getting shorter and shorter as the stronger I got. And then I got into the gym, started training. Initially, I was kind of doing abs and whatnot, but I never really understood physiology the way I understand it now. I never understood the importance of glutes, the importance of anterior core, the importance of hamstrings, all that sort of stuff that's associated with a balanced pelvis. I tried this exercise probably, I want to say 3-4 months ago now, so roughly around there. One of you guys recommended it to me, so I tried it, and I had a hell of a time trying it. Basically, the stretch in that rectus femoris quad hip flexor region was just too much. So I would get to a point where I'm lowering myself down, and what you're seeing here is incredible advancement to where I was. Basically, I couldn't even crack 90 degrees back then. Now you're seeing me go to like 45 degrees, basically, if not a little bit more than that. So that's incredible progression. And that's not because I've been working at this. Remember, when I first started doing this, I could not do anything because it wasn't because my quads were really weak. It was more because they were really tight. And at the time when I started doing this, part of the thinking back then was I have weak glutes. Weak quads. That was kind of the thinking. And so this is one of you guys recommended this to me. And so I started doing that, and I was like, man, I can't even do this damn exercise. Like, it's so damn tight through that kind of anterior upper leg, anterior core. So I gave that up after only a few days. It was just painful. It was actually giving me hip pain. It was making my hip pain even worse at that time. And so I moved away from it. Went into leg extensions and whatever. Merry goes round. I worked out basically the best way to address all of my issues in one swoop is to address the anterior pelvic tilt by doing the posterior chain stuff that I've been preaching for the last, I don't know how long. I feel like I've been talking about it forever, but I've been hot and cold about it. Now there's a complete realization that posterior chain training for me is everything, especially in a program such as Squat Every Day, where you are handling squatting movements every single day. And so that squatting further facilitates that anterior pelvic tilt. So I need something to combat that, something that brings posterior pelvic tilt into it, kind of like the muscles at the back, glutes and hamstrings. Because when those guys are more dominant than the anterior muscles, you have what's called posterior pelvic tilt. And so I need a bit of posterior tilting going on in order for it to balance out. So I kind of been, you guys have seen me smashing the hell out of the Rdls, smashing the hell out of the deadlifts for so long now. And today, I was reading through the comments and then talking to you guys from last night's video, and one of you guys said, try Nordics, because yesterday I was talking about hamstring curls. And so then we got into this sort of stuff, this sort of discussions, and somebody said reverse Nordics. And then it kind of lit my brain up a little bit, and I was like, oh man, I should really try reverse Nordics again, because that's kind of what I need to do. And then again, my mind lit up again, and I was like, all right. So the chest flies, the pec flies that I've been talking about in the last few weeks have been feeling incredible to me. And I've kind of been thinking about, along those lines, what can I do for the lower body that has the same effect to my posture, to how I feel, in my upper body with chest flies? What can I do to the lower body? And so I thought about, adductors, stretching the adductors, kind of like splits and whatever. And then last night it occurred to me, the exercise, the chest flies exercise for lower legs, I think is the reverse Nordic. The stretching sensation from the knee all the way to my abs, to my rib cage, is crazy. And I'm a pure beginner when it comes to this exercise. I've seen people literally lay back on the ground. I remember seeing Tom Platz doing this exercise. He wasn't doing reverse Nordics, he was just stretching. basically pinning his legs underneath him and laying back. And I remember thinking to myself, whoa, man, like this guy is flexible as hell. And I've never been able to do that. So I think this exercise, the reverse Nordics, is great for the anterior pelvic tilt, because in anterior pelvic tilt, we are assuming that you have really tight hip flexors. Now, these hip flexors could be tight for many reasons. I've said in the past that a tight muscle is a weak muscle, and that's definitely a possibility. And that's kind of rung true for me many times over. Deep squatting, ATG squatting, is very heavy on the anterior, on the hip flexors. The virtue of you keeping your lower back flat in that deep position means you have to have strong hip flexors. If you think about where the psoas muscles originate from, they originate from T12 all the way down to L5. And each vertebra gets, basically it's like a fan muscle that gets one head or one strand or so, or something along those lines, off the psoas. And so the psoas basically pulls all of the lumbar spine and inserts into the proximal femur. So when you have that muscle really weak and you go into a deep squat, that muscle can't maintain tightness or it doesn't have enough strength to contract. And so then you blow your back out and you start having a butt wink. If that muscle is really strong and you shorten that muscle, if you picture this, if you have a really strong psoas muscle, it will pull that lower back into position and you will have a flat lower back. The hip flexors are crucial in ATG squatting. I've said this in the past. Work your hip flexors. That's one of the things you should look into if you have severe butt wink. I don't have that. I have really strong ATG position and I squat every single day. And so for me, it's probably too much tightness every single day into that psoas hip flexor rectus femoris. And so me doing the exercise, the reverse Nordics, is bringing length into an already strong muscle. This is how I'm thinking about it. And right now I'm feeling incredible. It's similar feeling, basically the same feeling, just a different body part as chest flies. When I do chest flies, I can't explain to you, I'm not doing these for like some sexy ass pecs so I can walk around. I'm doing this, man, because when I finish my chest flies at the end of the day, I walk around with this posture that's deemed a good posture. Chest out, top of the head, somebody's pulling the string on the top of your head. So kind of like double chin. I'm basically showing my chest to people, right? That's really good posture. And I tend to have rounded all the shoulders. If you think about what I do for a living, I'm a nurse, patients are in beds. And so I'm kind of forever leaning over, doing things with patients. My job is not an arborist or something that, I'm not looking up all the time, whatever, painting, whatever. I don't know what other occupations are there that involves you looking up all the time. I don't have that. My work is always down. So chest flies and reverse Nordics are going into this little basket, which I'm going to call feel good basket. Not just feel good basket. I can basically put that as prehab basket, because this stuff is I feel correct me completely. I've always felt I had strong glutes. I always felt that. I always felt I had strong glutes. But the strong glutes were being overpowered by these really, really tight hip flexors, which I'm continuously training through this deep squatting. So, what am I going to do with these? Well, I think these, like some of you guys have been talking about the actual, the proper Nordic hamstring curls. You guys are saying you can do this every single day. It has a really kind of low cost. Low recovery cost. And I'm thinking to myself, man, when I wake up tomorrow, man, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get up and I'm going to try and get on my yoga mat in the house and I'm going to try and bust out, sets of 3. You saw me doing sets of 3 at the start of this video. I don't want to do any more because I start compromising position and I start letting go. But I think this is like Pnf stretching. If you guys don't know what Pnf stretching is, it's basically the best form of stretching. If you're interested in getting flexibility, Pnf stretching is the way to go. Pnf stands for, I always have to think about this, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Basically what this means is that you are taking a muscle to its end range of motion that is available to you. And then when you get to that point, you are then contracting that muscle actively out of that position. So when we think about stretching, let's think about the normal hamstring stretch. We kind of sit on the ground, we throw one leg forward and we lean over, and then that's it. And so we're passively stretching and the muscle is just completely inactive and copying it sweet. You know what I mean? You're just stretching the hell out of it, and then when you've had enough, you let go, and the muscle is just not involved. It's just copying it. With proprioceptive facilitation, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, what you're doing is you're actually contributing, you're activating that muscle in that end range. And so the explanation that I've heard is that it's basically teaching that muscle confidence to contract in that end range of motion, and that kind of carries over to better turnover of flexibility. So the next day you wake up, you're going to have some sort of residue, you're going to have some carryover the next day. And I don't know if you guys, I've definitely spent a lot of time with stretching, man, hot and cold relationship with it, definitely. You kind of stretch one day all day, the next day you wake up and you feel like you're back to square one. Well, with Pnf stretching, there's a bit of carryover, and that carryover is because you're teaching that nervous system of that area to kind of chill out and not kind of lock up as much. That's kind of what reverse Nordics feels like to me. I'm stretching the hell out of the quads and the hip flexors. I go all the way as far as I can. I stop when the thing doesn't allow me to go anymore, and then I contract. And to be honest with you, it's kind of like a uncomfortable sensation, but it's also feels good. It's kind of like the chest flies. You feel like you're ripping freaking fascia open. You feel like you're ripping open, but then when you come back to the rested position, you feel high, man. You feel all this tension has left you. It's an incredible feeling. And when you think about, when you listen to yoga, guys that do yoga, they talk about the same thing. You've kind of finished that session, you walk away, and you're feeling light on your feet. You're feeling like a ballerina. Walk around really light on your feet. It's because that tension in the body has left you. If you think about weight training, 1 rep maxing, deadlift, bench press, squats, all of that stuff. If you think about strength in general, it's about tightness. It's about locking up. It's about bracing. It's about just short, tight, brace kind of mentality. What we're asking here is that we're asking that muscle to let go to its limit and then contract. And so I think it's sexy as hell. I've said this to you guys many times. I think it's sexy as hell when you see somebody strong in a full range of motion. This is why I love seeing Klokov, Lou, Clarence Kennedy, all these dudes that I've kind of got introduced to very, very early on. Guys that they're taking the 300 kilos ATG, man. Like, that is so much more impressive to me than some guy that's squatting 400 and getting to parallel or questionable parallel. To me, range of motion is sexy as hell, man. If you think about that commercial with the semi-trailers with Van Damme, man, that dude, Van Damme, man, that is an epic, no one will ever forget that commercial, man. Not only is he flexible enough to do splits, side splits, middle splits, whatever you want to call them, but he is contracting those muscles so he doesn't fall down. So those muscles are not only long, but they are damn strong. And that to me is a beautiful thing, man. Now that's something that I kind of strive for, and that's something that I get really impressed by. Right now, I'm literally feeling, I could be wrong, I always get this wrong, but I feel like I'm going to have some good DOMs in my quads from doing these sets of 3 reverse Nordics. Last time that I did them, like a few months ago, I didn't have any DOMs because I didn't have any range of motion. It was just basically, I was so damn tight that there was no range. I wasn't taking the muscle to any range of motion. So this is something I can do at 5 o'clock in the morning. I can do this before my 12-hour day shifts. Get up early in the morning, bust out a couple of these, bust out some Rdls and do my front squats and get over my day. It's a beautiful way to wake up, I think. By the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've changed the way I do my Rdls on these light days. So I'm basically doing stiff-legged Rdls now. My normal RDL position is kind of like a reverse deadlift position. So I do allow a little bit of knee forward travel. What I'm basically looking for is a vertical shin angle when I'm doing my proper RDLs, because that mimics the deadlift. When I'm doing the stiff-legged RDLs, my knees go backwards. So my shin bone starts to kind of point backwards. That is very heavy on the lower back, very, very heavy on the hamstrings. And so if I'm going to have a light day, if I'm going to use really lightweight, let's kind of challenge the hamstrings more than I do on normal days. So one day I'm going to take the 200 for a ride. The next day I'm going to take 60 and really kind of lock out those knees. And my goal was that feeling the fascia in the back of my legs, that hot feeling that you feel with fascia kind of, get to that end range of motion. So a whole bunch of changes. I was sitting there today, thinking about the reverse Nordics. I actually did 5 sets of 3 in the house before I came out here, then did another 5 sets of 3 outside. And the whole time I'm thinking, man, this is an awesome exercise. This is a chest fly. This feels incredible. I feel like before you even get to the strength, aspect of exercises, the carryover to your main lifts, you need to have some sort of normal structure to your physique, posture. If we think about what's beautiful about human beings, when you walk past somebody and you're like, wow, that's an impressive physique, most often than not, they have really nice posture. They have leveled hips, the shoulders are back. Even if you look at a female, if a female walks by you and she's got those rounded shoulders, the whole neck's forward, flexed, the back of the head is flexed, like the gig posture, that's not a sexy woman, no matter how beautiful she may look. If you force that chest out and you level out the hips and all of a sudden she's walking proud, that's a beautiful posture. That's a beautiful human being. Same thing for guys. You want to kind of walk with a good posture. And I think a lot of us that kind of walk around in the daily lives, there's lots of desk sitting, lots of driving, lots of working. Like my job is always kind of bent over, kind of looking after people in bed. And so stuff like chest flies and stuff like these reverse Nordics feel incredible. Guys, I'm going to start implementing this screen at the end of my videos. These are the names of the fellas which are my patrons on Patreon. Enough with the black screens at the end of these videos. I got this idea from another channel that I watch, and I think it's a beautiful idea. I want to thank everyone on this list. I have so much support that it's frankly incredible to me. I can't even believe where this channel has ended up. I never thought this was going to be the case. 93,000 supporters. It's incredible. The guys on this screen have become patrons on Patreon. I'm going to get that twisted up. I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting me. You guys are my number one supporters. Each of these guys on the screen are helping me closer to my goal, a little bit, every step closer to my squat bar and a little bit further away from the hospital. And so, you guys know how motivated I am to get to my goals. And these names on the screen, I appreciate you guys. It really means a lot to me. It's unbelievable. I never thought I was ever going to be in a position like this where people are seeking out and supporting me in this way. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.